Health Organization says a whopping 47 lakh Indians died of COVID. This means that India probably has the highest number of COVID fatalities in the world. The numbers are truly astonishing. Nearly 10 times the official number that the government has, of just above 5 lakhs. Now, India has gone on record to say that the World Health Organization numbers are not reliable and that they rely on a model of calculation which is not authentic, particularly since India says that reliable data is available officially. But the World Health Organization quite clearly is sticking with their numbers. They've come out with a press release endorsing this very detailed study which they've done. India needs to know, all of us need to know, how many people died of COVID. Is the government number truthful? Is it correct? Is there a morbid undercount which has taken place? And if there is a morbid undercount, is it to the extent that the World Health Organization has said that it is? 47 lakh Indians, the World Health Organization, it's the most reputable, it is the most reliable, typically, organization of its type in the world. And they've come out with this and they're sticking with their numbers. The government of India says nothing doing. We'll bring you both sides of this debate. First, let's take a look at what the World Health Organization says. It says that India's COVID deaths are the highest globally. If you just compile the numbers, this is what comes. The World Health Organization says over 47 lakh excess COVID deaths in India. The government of India's data shows 5.23 lakh deaths. The government of India says the World Health Organization's estimate of deaths, I beg your pardon, the World Health Organization's estimate of deaths on the basis of what they're projecting now is 9 times more than India's. Now, India has hit out at the World Health Organization study. India says that the World Health Organization study lacks academic rigor. India says that the World Health Organization hasn't addressed our concerns. India says the World Health Organization estimates are based on other estimates. And India says that the World Health Organization study disregards actual data. We're going to be debating this now. We've got a fantastic panel from around the world. Dr. Bhramar Mukherjee, the health data scientist at the University of Michigan with us. She's come out with her own set of statistics a long time back and has consistently argued that there was an undercount in India. Dr. Rajiv Dasgupta with us as well, Dr. Sunila Garg, Dr. Rajiv Jayadevan, Dr. Prabhat Jha, Professor Gaurav Ballabh of the Congress, and we've got PKD Nambiar who supports the BJP. Let me go across to Bhramar Mukherjee first. Bhramar, your first reaction to this number, it's astonishing. 47 lakh Indians died of COVID. Do you believe this is accurate?
Thank you, Vishnu, for having me on the show. First of all, I do not think it's astonishing. I think that multiple studies now, the WHO estimate is an added evidence to various studies led by many people, the IHME, the Economist estimate, Dr. Jha's study, which has 3 sources of data, all point to an estimate in the range of 4 to 5 million deaths. So I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised at this. All right. I'll come back to you in a moment. Dr. Rajiv Dasgupta, as Bhramar points out over there, there are multiple studies all done by reputable people who stake their credibility by coming out and saying these numbers. And now it's the World Health Organization with many data scientists who are part of it who say that 47 lakh died in India of COVID. Do you believe that this is credible, this study?
Thank you. It's not a question of believing or not believing. I think what's getting misconstrued here and what needs to be set right at the outset is that these are not all COVID deaths. These are deaths, excess deaths associated with the pandemic, which means these are COVID deaths which are counted and reported. These are COVID deaths which are not counted and therefore not reported. And this also includes deaths which are indirectly associated with the pandemic that had caused complete strain and stress on various systems, the health system, the social system, and so on. So to simplify this, it's akin to, for example, if a bridge breaks down, so there may be some deaths which is directly associated with the trauma. Those who are on the bridge may be dying. But if that bridge is cutting off a very large area from where because you can't cross the bridge and access health services, there would be deaths due to heart attack and snake bites and so on. So when you count the excess death associated with this event, all of them are not directly due to the bridge falling down.
No, but Dr. Dr. Dasgupta, on your point, this is what the WHO says, and I quote: excess mortality is calculated as the difference between the number of deaths that have occurred and the number that would be expected in the absence of the pandemic based on data from earlier years. I understand that you're saying that, look, that would mean that people could have died of many other causes as well. I understand that. But the fact of the matter is that we had COVID. It is a known killer. And therefore, shouldn't one actually accept the fact that this huge higher number, at least to a high percentage, would be because of COVID deaths?
Yes, of course, but not all of these are directly COVID deaths. And I repeat, and I read out the third bullet from the WHO report, which is that it includes deaths indirectly associated with COVID-19 due to other causes and diseases resulting from the wider impact of the pandemic on health systems and society.
I'll interrupt you again and come back to you because I want to read out that point. Again, the WHO statement: excess mortality includes deaths associated with COVID-19 directly because of the disease or indirectly because of the pandemic's impact on health systems and society, right? Deaths linked indirectly to COVID-19 are attributable to other health conditions for which people were unable to access prevention and treatment because health systems were overburdened by the pandemic. The estimated number of excess deaths can be influenced also by deaths averted during the pandemic due to lower risks at certain events like motor vehicle accidents or occupational injuries. Doctor, this is all very important. If a person is unable to be treated for a major condition because there was no hospital bed available, then it is associated with COVID. How do we not accept that number as well? Similarly, if there is a COVID patient who would normally have survived, go to a hospital and not have oxygen, as was the case in our country, and they died, that is directly because of a missing health infrastructure for whatever the reason. So again, that should be counted as a COVID death. No, sir? Dr.
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
It is a death associated with the pandemic. That one needs to make a distinction between associated with the pandemic and a COVID death. I am merely making that distinction, and therefore it is very large for a country with such a vast population and extremely challenging conditions across the country. One can understand some of these excess deaths.
Okay. Dr. Sunila Garg, just to the point that Dr. Dasgupta makes over there, that we need to understand what all the WHO is counting. A lot of people would perhaps suggest that you absolutely have to count deaths related to COVID and put it into that number, because when COVID affected COVID affected every aspect of our society, of our lives, right, of our health infrastructure. And therefore, one can't just look away from that. Do you accept that argument? What the WHO says?
I accept that argument totally, because you see, we have to see that India is very vast. The systems were overburdened in some of the states. We are a country of 36 states and union territories. That's where you see, we can see that the systems were overburdened in Delhi or in Kerala or in Maharashtra. So, but we cannot say that the systems were same. If I talk of Dadra and Nagar Haveli, where there were only 4 deaths, we cannot say that each part of the country is comparable to the other part of the country. So that is where I have always been telling that you have the figure is highly inflated. That's what I feel.
Why do you feel it's inflated, ma'am?
Because you see, that's what I said. The pandemic was not uniform across the country. As I said, that the number of cases across. You saw the the systems were strained across majority of in majority of the places. They were across Delhi. You look at Maharashtra, like in Mumbai, or you look in Kerala.
So, ma'am, you're saying that extrapolating data, as in the way that the WHO has done, assumes that there is a uniform death rate, possibly because of COVID, direct or indirect, across the country, which you feel is not the way to do it. Is that what you're suggesting?
It's not the way to do it.
Okay.
Because you see, every country's, each of the country, if I'll say Pakistan or I'll say, any other country like Peru or Israel, basically when we look at, these are equivalent to one of our states. So that is where it is important to look. Each of the state in our country is very different.
Got it. I just want to bring in Brahmer on this point. Brahma, you're a health data scientist. You work with these numbers. How has the WHO, to your understanding, calculated this? Is there a one model fits the entire world principle, which should be used for India as well?
So thank you for that question. And I want to declare that I was a part of the technical advisory group for WHO. But what I'm saying here is in my independent knowledge as a statistician. And I really applaud the effort by John Wakefield and his team in positing this model with incomplete subnational data. So of course, the gold standard, the best will be to have complete all-cause mortality data over the years from not just 2020, 2021, but the past as well. But with subnational data, you have to make assumptions. And so different models makes different assumptions. But I would like to point out to Dr. Jha's study why I feel all of these estimates are in the ballpark and these assumptions are attainable is because that's a nationally representative voting survey as well as healthcare facility deaths. So multiple sources of data, not just the civil registration system, have corroborated this fact. And the IHME model has used a machine learning tool to come up with different covariates that predict mortality. Of course, knowing the observed all-cause mortality from all states and union territories will be the best. But what can we do when that data is not available?
Right.
And I personally, if you think of my opinion as a practicing statistician for 25 years, if it has any value, I have reviewed that methodology and I have strong confidence in that methodology. And I think it's a very useful tool for predicting mortality in the future as well.
And the model that you use or you suggest is obviously deeply peer reviewed, right? It's not something that you've thought up and you've sort of applied. I think that's the point that needs to be made. None of this, neither your model or Ashish Jha's model or the WHO model is one scientist. It's peer reviewed, the model of statistical analysis. And therefore there are data scientists who've agreed on this, not based on any bias or any mistake. It's been cross-checked. That's the key point.
So the IHME paper is published in Lancet, Dr. Jha's paper is published in Science, and this paper that John Wakefield's group has led is undergoing very rigorous peer reviewed, and I have read that paper myself. So I think that